This was a good 6 months back. My girlfriend was staying at her parents', so I, 27 male, was at the flat alone. Around 3 a.m., I'm woken by a loud slam. I quickly jolt up. My bedroom door is wide open, and I see a bald man walk straight past my room and into the living room. I must have forgotten to lock the front door that night. I jumped out of bed, and immediately my mind made the decision to just stand in front of the front door. I figured there's only one way out, and if he's taken anything, I can try to stop him. In my haste, I'd also made the subconscious decision not to put any clothes on so I could get to the door quicker, and so I was standing there completely naked. Not important to the story, just semi-amusing. Anyway, the dude comes stumbling back to the door, has a handful of loose cans of Stella cradled in his arms, a half-smoked cigarette in his mouth, and a plastic shopping bag hanging from one of his hands. I asked what he was doing in my flat, to which he replied,
"I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry."
Though he could hardly get his words out. He was clearly absolutely fucked. I asked him to show me the contents of his bag, which didn't have any of our stuff in it, before proceeding to let him out of the flat, locking the door this time. I'm assuming he was just out of his mind on whatever and walked into the wrong flat. One funny detail, there was a point where one of the cans slipped from his grip, and he had to bend down to pick it up, making him directly eye level with my bare waist. It was a very awkward moment, and I'm sure the poor guy doesn't remember, so hasn't been completely scarred. Anyway, I got back to bed and could hardly sleep the rest of the night, my heart absolutely thumping. I will say, it gave me some confidence in my fight or flight response. You never really know what you'll be like in this sort of situation, and I was quite proud after the fact that I blocked his exit. I'm perhaps not one of the most masculine of men, so that was some nice affirmation. Completely true story, by the way. One of the most terrifying moments of my life. Seeing a stranger casually stroll into my living room in the dead of night. So this happened to me a couple of years ago when my now husband and I were living in a townhouse in a pretty decent area. My husband was working third shift as a corrections officer at our local corrections facility, and I was working as a waitress and bartender. It was an unusually warm night for mid-March, so I took advantage and decided to take my husband's 80-pound Alaskan Malamute Siberian Husky mixed dog on a quick walk around the neighborhood near our complex. We get to the end of the street that leads into the complex we live in, and across the street is a Marathon gas station. I noticed as the dog, Luke, stops to relieve himself, that there's a guy across the street at the gas station with a case of beer in his hands. I have my phone out texting a friend, and I looked back up to notice the guy was near the stop sign, also relieving himself on the sign. I felt really awkward and instantly put my phone away and led Luke down the street on our path. At this point, I think the guy noticed us, and he crossed the street to where Luke and I had just been. I hear him walking a few feet behind me and just keep my head down, staring at my phone, with Luke glued to my hip. After about 10 seconds, I hear this guy's steps getting closer. Luke realizes there's someone behind us, and he stops in his tracks. Mind you, he's a big dog compared to my 5'2" self, but I can handle him pretty easily, and he is very well trained by my husband. But I noticed his ears were perked up, and his tail was straight up. I was glad that he was aware of our surroundings, but I still wanted to keep moving and get away from this guy. I don't know, I just got a weird feeling. This guy finally catches up, so I tighten my grip on Luke's leash and pull him closer to me and step into the grass to allow this guy to pass us and keep Luke out of his way. Does this guy keep going and pass? Nope. When I thought he was about to pass us, I stuttered out a small apology because Luke was pulling on his leash a little to investigate this guy, and most people did get intimidated by him just by his size. He is massive for a dog, in my opinion. The guy stops and just stares at me for a minute, long enough for me to smell the cigarettes and booze rolling off of him And to notice, he's probably in his mid to late 20s, dark hair, scruffy looking, and just dirty. He smiles, and then finally seems to notice Luke trying to get at him and asks,
Cute dog. What's his name?
Instead of making up a name, I said, Luke. He then proceeds to ask me if he can pet my dog, and before I can even give him an answer, he leans down to start petting Luke's head. Luke did not like that. Luke jumped at him as a warning, and the guy backed up, chuckling. I apologized and mentioned that he was very protective and made up a lie that he was trained as my dad's former canine unit. My dad is a software developer. Instantly, I saw this guy's face change. I don't know what to call it, but he looked a little put off by it. He asked me what my name was, and I gave him a fake name. He then asked if I lived around here, and I said I was visiting a friend of mine for the weekend. He then made a sudden step towards me, and I'm not lying when I say I have never heard my husband's dog growl in the 5 years I've been with him, but the sound that came from my dog sounded like something from nightmares. Luke's hair was spiking on his spine, and he was throwing himself up on his back legs and kicking his front legs at this guy. He had put himself completely between myself and the guy and snapping at him. This freaked the dude out so much he stumbled backwards, nearly dropping his beer. He quickly said,
Well, have a nice night, cutie.
Ew, and stumbled off down the road. When I say my heart was pounding, it was deafening. I grabbed Luke's leash so hard and sprinted between the buildings until I got back to my townhouse and locked all the doors and collapsed by the front door. Luke was in my face the whole time, kissing me and whining. This dog is the sweetest and most gentle creature I've ever met, and hearing him growl and seeing him react the way he did made me realize that I needed to get out of that situation, and fast. 2 things I learned that night. 1, do not go out at night alone, even with my dog, because if someone wanted to get to me, they would take my dog out without a care. And 2, always listen and read your dog. If they think something is up, then trust their instincts over your own. A good lesson for kids about stranger danger. This was 4 years ago. I was 15, and I loved puzzles. I wanted to buy one, but I didn't have much money, so I went out with my sister, who was 12 at the time and short for her age, looking for random toy stores that sold off-brand and cheap toys. We found one in an area of town that didn't have much activity around. It didn't really look like a toy store in the front, and when you walked in, you could see the shelves full and looked like they haven't been rearranged in years. It kind of seemed like the store didn't really have a reason to be there. There was this man at the cash register who noticed us coming in. I didn't really get a weird vibe from him or the store. It was just empty. So we looked around, and there are no puzzles. So I go up to the man and I ask him, Hey, I can't seem to find any puzzles. Do you know if there are any that I'm missing? The man answers,
Oh yeah, there are puzzles. They're downstairs.
I didn't see any downstairs when we entered the store, but I was like, sure, show me the puzzles. This was like the 3rd store we had tried, so I just wanted to find my toy, you guys. The man walks around the corner and to the door that you wouldn't notice unless it was pointed at. He opened and revealed a steep staircase going down. At the bottom was a plain wall. You would have to go left or right to enter whatever the room was. It didn't seem like there were toys down there. It was also kind of dark down there. Also, if there was really a downstairs to the toy store, wouldn't the door be open? At that moment, I got that stomach drop and the get the F out of there, man, feeling. The man was looking at me, waiting for my sister and I to walk down in front of him. I was like, my mom is calling me. I'll be right back. My sister and I got the heck out of there, and I've never even been close to the store since. Maybe there were puzzles down there, maybe there weren't, but I was definitely not going to stay and find out. Also, it's very important to be careful in this sort of situation. Because if I was right, and the man did have bad intentions, then if I had taken even just one step closer to the stair, he could have pushed me down, and at that moment, there would have definitely been no possible escape. So don't go down random stairs, y'all. Stay safe.